Hi, this is AJ Bingham, and I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Regions Financial Corporation. Regions is a different kind of bank with branches serving Central Texas from Austin to San Antonio and the Rio Grande Valley. Regions can assist your firm with its M&A and investment banking needs, as well as specialty finance in the technology, healthcare, defense, and aerospace sectors. Learn more about Regions at www.regions.com, and you can find more information in the episode notes. Now on with the show.
Welcome to the BG Podcast, conversations at the intersection of business, community, and public policy from the Austin Metro and around Texas. You can find this episode and prior recordings at www.binghamgp.com/podcast and on iTunes and Google Play.
Hello, this is AJ Bingham, CEO of the Bingham Group. Our guest today is Zach Henn, the Director of Business Development at the Burt Group. Welcome to the show, Zach.
Hey, Jay, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for coming out, man. I know you're a busy man, like most of our busy person, like most of our guests. So we'll get to it. What is the Burt Group, and what's your role there? Sure. And business development has a broad reach.
Right. So the Burt Group, we're one of the rare locally based commercial builders here in Austin. Started about 20 years ago, really just doing kind of tenant service work. So what that means is kind of carpet, paint, moving walls on the interior side. Obviously, again, being in Austin for 20 years, we've grown tremendously with this market. So we've kind of evolved now into this full service builder on the ground up side, as well as the very high end corporate interiors.
Yeah, I'd say your new office or newish office right up in North Austin's, it looks just lovely, man. Love the build out. Love that. It's polished, the concrete floors.
It
all
is.
That.
Being a builder, obviously, as you can understand, your office is a showcase just as much as anything else that you do. We've got some pretty nice finishes, and it came together really, really well, and we've been very happy with our new offices.
Well, great. So one of the main topics for today is just talking about the trends you're seeing in the general contractor world and in the building world as well. And
right.
Austin, as most of us know, is booming. As you put the main cranes around here, and just get your thoughts on kind of the evolution of Austin, more so as being someone who's a local as well,
right?
Or native as well.
As we've all seen, Austin's on fire, but there's a couple of trends and items that we're looking at that we're paying close attention to. The first, and I think it's a pretty good sign, is that a lot of these downtown office projects, the skyscrapers, if you will, are still being developed by the local developers. Whether that's the Endeavors, the Riverside Resources, Trammell Crows, et cetera. So that's a good sign for us. When there's not a whole bunch of foreign capital coming in on the development side, that means that the experts that quote unquote know Austin are still continuing to break ground on these very high profile, high cost projects. Obviously, from a tenant mix, again, there's some reassuring signs, because what we're seeing as well is that there's a mix of these new companies coming in from the Californias, the New York, Chicagos, et cetera. But at the same time, we're starting to still see churn of some of these locally based Austin companies who are just taking newer and better space. They're just relocating and moving and or expanding.
And it's a good size in terms of it's a healthy economy for them to grow. And
exactly, and it's a healthy mix. Again, kind of that balance between the locally based firms who are, again, putting their capital to work and getting their newer, trendier offices. But at the same time, like you said, it's that 50% balance of a lot of these new companies coming into Austin. So when we see that balance and it's not tilted one way or the other, that's reassuring to us, and it just tells us that we're in a healthy cycle right now in terms of tenant mix and kind of who's coming from where and who's relocating from where.
Yeah, and what about seeing any current projects you have going on you can talk about? Or
yeah, absolutely. So again, it's actually probably a pretty good indicator of what we were just talking to. So I think underway, and again, we'll have anywhere between 20 to 30 projects going on at a time. So we're finishing up in about the next month the University of Texas's new indoor baseball practice facility. So that's right next door to Dish Falk Field. We are underway now with the new Austin headquarters for GoDaddy. We're finishing up a project for a tenant here in Austin called Spare Foot. CoreLogic just took a big, about 70,000 square foot space in North Austin. We just finished up some condos for CLO called The Foundry. So again, even with some of those projects that are mentioned, we're kind of all across the board between the University of Texas versus private corporate. We've got a ground up 4-story medical office building going on in North Austin by Parmer. So again, we've kind of got a healthy mix of project types and asset classes, which again is very encouraging to us because we like to see that diversification where we can.
Yeah, and the Burt Group you operate in other markets in Texas too, correct?
We do. So we actually just put a bow on a new office project for TCU in Fort Worth.
Your alma mater, right?
That's right. It's Go Frogs. So I selfishly, have been paying very close attention to that project, and it's actually our 4th project that we've done for TCU in the trailing 24 months. So they've been a great client, and again, it's just another area of Texas that's seeing that boom, and we're trying to capitalize on it to the best that we can.
Yeah, regulatory wise, I mean, to the degree you deal with this, I mean, what are you seeing kind of the trends in the Austin market that, relative to other things you're seeing in the industry across the country and other markets in Texas are of concern or things that are better here?
Right. I think that regulatory wise, especially you've got to focus on new ground up projects. And that's where in Austin, especially, I think one of our biggest hurdles, which I think almost any developer will groan when they even hear the three words, is the site development permit process. And so that's when you get a raw piece of land or even something with a building on it, but you are going to completely scrape it and come up with a new tower or a new project. Right now in Austin, just depending on the size, that site development permit can take you anywhere from 8 months to 14 months. And it has to go through basically, kind of in a nutshell, every department within the city of Austin. So Austin water, traffic, electricity, just basically anyone who would have anything to do with the building. But the problem we're seeing is that, when you're a developer trying to build a, preeminent Class A office product, having a runway before you can even dig dirt of 12 months can sometimes inhibit your leasing ability. And that time, time kills deals.
Well, time is money too.
That's right. Time kills all deals. And, trying to find a way to streamline it, I think, is kind of paramount to what Austin's next steps are going to be if we want to continue this growth cycle. And I know that, it's getting worked on, and obviously it's been a topic of conversation for the last multiple years. But, just in terms of regulatory and what could be improved, I think that's at the forefront of what needs to get addressed here in short order.
Yeah, I know. Just looking at other markets, I mean, I've always heard kind of the approximation. Project in Dallas takes about 6 months to 12 months versus
Right.
Austin. I mean, you kind of bake in 18 months, right? And I mean, I know that's a broad kind of sweep. It really can depend on the complexity of the deal and such. But I agree, that's something that I think it's definitely in the minds of a lot of folks in the development community.
Right, and City of Austin's taken the first steps. Obviously, they've got their new planning apartment building that's going up, and
That's around Highland, right?
Right, correct.
North
Yeah,
Austin.
so they're trying to consolidate their operations, kind of get everyone under one roof, as well as hopefully hire and ramp up. So we're very encouraged by that. But again, it's just especially for even some of these new entrants on the development side. I know I was just talking about a bunch of the Austin folks, but there are other developers coming out of the East Coast right now, and to them, it's even been a learning curve. It takes time.
We'll talk about that too. You're right, because I think more so. I was reading the Business Journal, right? I read some of these developers coming here, or at least kind of opening offices here, and from the West Coast too. West Coast probably not as much. I'm sure they might be relatively more used to kind of Austin or ways.
You're right. It's both though.
Yeah,
Right.
but so just in terms of those stories there, I mean, what's been the biggest kind of shocker to them? More so, you're coming out of New York, right? Where I'm assuming it's fairly complex anyway.
That's correct. The beauty of Austin, especially when you're coming out of New York, is that people aren't as sticker shocked by our construction prices.
Yeah.
Because Manhattan is not cheap to build in.
You don't realize too, Austin is the most expensive city in Texas.
Very much so. Yeah, it is. And to give you context,
It's a big state too.
It is a big state.
I mean,
I don't know if we want that title or not.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, people are coming here, but you can't. It's just people try to forget. It's small. It's relatively we're in a relative mid-sized kind of market or growing market, but it's expensive.
No, that's right. And I think a lot of
Across
us,
the board.
Yeah, and we're very centralized and we're very dense. So all of our subcontractors, your steel, your concrete, your curtain wall subs, they're all very busy. So obviously we're having to bring in a lot of these larger groups from the Dallases and the Houstons. And to give you context, I think right now we're looking at annual construction price inflation or increases, if you will, of about 15%, anywhere from 12 to 15%. So when you're building a pro forma and trying to underwrite deals and evaluate land costs, taking into account that inflation, again, when a site development permit can take you well over a year, it's kind of that moving target for your pro forma and trying to be able to nail down what the actual costs are going to be by the time that you break ground, build dirt, and deliver the product.
And for those who don't know, what's pro forma?
A pro forma is basically your all-in cost projection as well as revenue projection for a project.
Gotcha.
So it's a best guess, and you try and be conservative, but again, just kind of some of these idiosyncrasies of Austin make it tougher than most, in order to make those accurate projections at this time.
Yeah, I think we're encouraged right now. We have the revisions to the land development code. I was about to say the other word for it, but its predecessor attempt, but the revisions for the land development code are ongoing as of now, and we're in almost end September.
Right.
And I know a lot of it's going to be a lot of things hopefully come out of that will, in theory, right, kind of help streamline the whole development process, because it's going to be an overhaul of our code that I don't think has been done since '83,
Right.
probably before I was born. But I think that should encourage, and I mean, I'm assuming firms like yours are looking at that too, and
We do, very much so. And, just to give you, kind of just a simplistic understanding of how it works right now. So if we were to go build a downtown tower in downtown Austin, or somewhere close to it, basically, Austin's got these programs. It's a zoning overlay, and one of them is called the downtown density bonus. So for example, if the code book tells you that you can only build a tower that's 60 or 70 feet high, basically you can take advantage of this downtown density bonus program where it'll increase your height from 60 to 70 feet all the way up to maybe 200 feet. And in order to get that, there's just certain concessions that the developer has to make. And that would be, building sidewalks to a pedestrian-friendly atmosphere, a certain level of parking, making a donation to an affordable housing program. And it's kind of Austin's trade-off of allowing that increased density as long as you kind of return the favor in some of the aspects that matter most to them.
like community benefits.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's what's tricky, though, to your point about revising the land development code is, it's taken everyone, a little bit of time just to learn the downtown density bonus program and those incentives. And then when it's about to get changed, again, it's just another learning curve and trying to understand, okay, what's the next step? How does this affect building a downtown, kind of on the forefront as we look forward to the next couple of years.
I know too about downtown. I know a big big thing I'm hearing a lot of people talk about is just kind of about parking. Right. And I guess the rollback of parking requirements, right? Because currently, right now, you can talk about that a little bit. To build something in Austin, there's certain. Depending on what you build, right, there are certain requirements for how many parking spots you have to have on that property.
That's exactly right.
And the cost of those too, please.
Yeah, no, and parking costs money, and so. For example, right now, what we're seeing is generally, and obviously this will move between the different tenants and asset classes, office, you want to park it. There are downtown buildings that park as low as 1.8 per thousand. So that means for every 1,000 square feet of office product, you've got to have at least, 1.8 parking spaces for it. But then some of these corporate campuses, where if it's a single tenant user or it's, like an Oracle building, for example, those will park closer to 3 per thousand. And then to give you even more context, a medical office building has got to park 5 per thousand. So parking is a huge component to the overall development piece because, you've got to be able to build in, parking requires space and it requires area. And so that's why a lot of these projects, especially that you're seeing downtown right now, they're going subgrade, which are those big holes that you see going underground. And those holes are very expensive, especially as you get closer to the river. It's that soil and that mud is very sloshy, so it's very, very expensive to have to hold that soil back. You're basically building like a concrete bathtub, if you will.
We had that case with the Hotel Zaza. It just opened up last month, but that was, that had been going on for quite some time because they kept hitting water, and they were further back. 4 blocks back from the water line,
right?
Or at least from the river.
And then, I think another 5th and West, another project right there. I think they hit water on the subgrade. There's just, and it's nothing you can really do about it besides pump it out and do your best to retain it. But you're right. A lot of those problems are overcome because you've got to pump it out and, you've got to move forward with the project. But like you said, parking is the main culprit, if you will, because 9 times out of 10, if you see a project going subgrade underground, it's to accommodate the parking, and it's expensive and it also runs the risk, like you're mentioning, of hitting water, which is kind of the developer's worst nightmare.
It's like that or like limestone in this city anyway, right?
Limestone's more out west,
yeah,
unfortunately.
That's true.
But yeah, it's, so the revisions to parking are big. Obviously, we've seen some projects come online here recently. I think maybe it was the Aloft downtown. There's some of these zero lot line buildings that have no parking, which it's an interesting concept. Obviously, it's a little more of the Northeast style versions, if you will, but we've been watching those closely because it's, again, how does that impact the asset's performance? Does it deter people? And I think for the most part, the answer is no. But it's something we're watching very closely, especially as it impacts the office campus style buildings and, kind of some more of the suburban, even medical and student housing. Just how are those parked and how are they changing? How's it kind of evolving to that sense?
Yeah. Are there any other parts of the LDC you're looking at? Just, at least as it is right now, right? We're still early in the process. I think the first draft is going to be for public kind of review. Actually, it's September 23rd today, but pretty soon, like in October, it's supposed to come out. Tentatively.
Obviously, we're going to scour through the whole thing, but something that's always that I think Austin deserves a lot of credit for are our zoning areas, if you will, our kind of zoning overlays. And I'll go back to what we were just talking about. So the Burt Group, we office very close to the new McCalla soccer stadium in the Domain, and that whole area is called the...
Well, be quick. You're right on the block. It's awesome. Yeah, let me know when season starts and who I'm going to hang out with. So.
No question. Your tickets
I'm
are
sure you're
on
getting
us.
I'm sure the box is going to be ready. I'm sure the box. I have faith in y'all.
We are excited, no question. But again, that whole area, the North Burnett Gateway Zone, is, City of Austin did a great job of providing this overlay, if you will, that, kind of what I mentioned, there's a couple of concessions you have to make, either build to a certain product type or make a donation in a certain amount of money, to different coffers. They allow for some incredible dense projects, which makes that whole area much more appetizing and desirable, obviously to developers, but then again to construction companies, just because of there's so much work that can take place in such a dense and concentrated area. And so that's what we're going to be looking at the LDC as well, is, obviously we've seen kind of the sprawl east, a lot of big name tenants have started making their way down East 5th and East 6th, and it's kind of looking at what are the next zones, where are going to be the next hot areas, if you will, that, capital and developers are going to flock to. And so again, I think Austin deserves a lot of credit for how they structure that and how they write those codes per se and designate those areas, because again, you see the Domain, you see McCalla.
I mean, I think, for those who know the Domain, this is again northwest Austin, north central northwest Austin. But I think your area, the whole, we look at the current, what Domain 3 and 4 and all that's coming online there with heavy investment from companies like Indeed, Amazon. I think it's putting some more people up there too.
HomeAway,
everyone
Facebook.
else. But then you have the additions to the Apple campus as well, right? So like that whole, I guess that's across, that's a little more further west from y'all, but it's going to be a kind of, like you look at some other really developed northeast markets, or even like Houston, we have the Midtown and kind of skyscrapers over here, and then a true downtown.
Right. What the Domain, in a sense, reminds me of is, for example, Atlanta. You've got downtown Atlanta, but then you've got the Buckhead market of Atlanta. And I like to compare the Domain almost to Buckhead. It's almost a second downtown, kind of, again, that live, work, play dynamic that really has, obviously one developer had a big chunk of the Domain, but now you're starting to see all these surrounding offshoot developments. People are capitalizing off of what the Domain has done, and again, it's creating this ever densifying kind of hotbed, if you will. And so again, going back to the land development code, starting to identify the next potential areas, and maybe it is, hopefully it is, staying up in the Northwest, obviously given our positions up there, but it's been very intriguing to watch, if you will, kind of all the activity that it's spurred just because of one initial development. Yeah,
get a good rail line up there too, and I'd be selfish of me. I think I live in Miller, so like having one just kind of connecting all these little hubs together, I think like, you do well for the city. Like because we're not gonna, we don't have like road wise, right? We can't, like most cities have a true loop, right, or multiple loops. We have that, so doing some kind of just planned out transit loop deal. I'm not a politician, so I don't know. It's my mental idea. Maybe it would be good. So we shall see. But Zach, any closing thoughts though?
No, obviously I appreciate you having me on, and again, we're excited to be in this town. There's a lot of good things going on, but again, it's just trying to stay very connected to this city, because there's a lot going on, and if you kind of take your eye off the ball even at 1 second, you're going to miss something important.
I got one question though, because this is more of a mark of how just your talent, because you're relatively young for the job you're in, right? Like when I first met you, I didn't know all what you did, right? And like I'm just impressed, but like the scope of what you do, and for the company and the C-suite. Can you you're 27, you really run a significant part of this company's kind of endeavors in engineering business, right?
Right. So, and again, obviously, I've got a lot of good people around me. We've got a tremendous company. I think the one hugely beneficial thing about the Burt Group is, especially even our founder, it's kind of that quote, talent recognizes talent. And we've got a lot of young folks in quote unquote higher positions than I guess the market norms, and that's mainly because of work ethic and ability to deliver success, and so obviously I've kind of worked my tail off. I'd like to think I have, and I'm very thankful to be, as you mentioned, in the position I'm in. But again, it's more of a testament to the Burt Group, I would say, and how we foster our people and enable that growth. It's not necessarily hit a certain age and you're in that position. It's more of who can run and gun, who can deliver the success and kind of do what they say. So it's I've been very thankful, no doubt, and I love the position I'm in. But again, I think it's a product of the company I'm with, and how they've allowed me to kind of grow myself and come into the position that I'm in right now.
Well said. We'll put a link to Burt Group's job board in the show notes as well for folks who are looking, because that was the best plug I think you can give. Like, you deserve a raise for that one. So, all right, Zach, thanks for your time.
AJ, thank you, man.
Hi, this is AJ. We want to again thank our sponsor, Regions Financial Corporation. With branches serving Central Texas from Austin to San Antonio and the Rio Grande Valley, Regions can help your firm with its M&A and investment banking needs, as well as specialty finance, the technology, healthcare, defense, and aerospace sectors. Learn more about Regions in the episode notes.
Thank you for listening to today's BG podcast. You can find this episode and prior recordings at www.binghamgp.com/podcast and iTunes and Google Play. Subscribe to stay current on future posts.